Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
Here is the generated essay. In the realm of evolutionary biology, few voices have resonated as profoundly as that of Stephen Jay Gould. His 1982 essay, Evolution as Fact and Theory, stands as a pivotal contribution to the public understanding of science, a clarion call for nuanced thinking amidst persistent misconceptions. This essay undertakes a rigorous, section-by-section examination of Gould's arguments, meticulously evaluating their internal coherence, evidentiary support, and lasting impact on both scientific discourse and public perception. Our aim is not to merely summarize Gould's points, but to subject them to the scrutiny they deserve, acknowledging the complexities inherent in communicating sophisticated scientific concepts. Section 1. The central proposition fact and theory. As distinct but intertwined concepts, Gould initiates his exposition by establishing a crucial distinction, the differentiation between evolution as a demonstrable phenomenon and evolution as a comprehensive theoretical framework. He asserts, and provides support for, the factual observation of evolutionary change, citing examples such as industrial melanism in peppered moths and the documented resistance of bacteria to antibiotics. These instances, he argues convincingly, represent undeniable shifts in the genetic makeup of populations over time, constituting irrefutable evidence of evolution in action. Gould emphasizes that such observations are independent of any specific theoretical interpretation. He highlights the role of the scientific method and empirical observations in supporting the claim that evolution is a fact. However, the true strength of this initial argument lies in the subsequent examination of evolutionary theory. He addresses head-on the common misunderstanding that a theory is merely a speculative hunch. Instead, he explains that scientific theories are bodies of knowledge, internally consistent and supported by multiple lines of evidence, which are used to provide explanations of real-world phenomena. Gould's careful construction of his argument, with its precise definition of terms and the clear separation of observation from interpretation, lays the groundwork for defense of evolutionary theory from misinformed criticisms. Section 2. The Scopes trial and the persistent misunderstanding. Gould deftly incorporates an analysis of the Scopes trial into his argument, utilizing it not simply as a historical anecdote but as a lens through which to examine the enduring misrepresentations of evolution. He observes that the trial, which pitted science against religious fundamentalism, served to highlight the societal friction surrounding evolutionary ideas. He analyzes the motivations of both sides, underscoring the deep-seated ideological commitments that fueled the conflict. He also scrutinizes the legal and rhetorical strategies employed by William Jennings Bryan and Clarence Darrow, demonstrating how the trial became a platform for exploring the relationship between science, religion, and public education. Gould observes that the trial did not resolve the core disagreement regarding evolution, but rather amplified the debate and solidified the opposing viewpoints. In fact, he indicates how the trial served as a prologue to continued misunderstandings of science in the public sphere. His analysis emphasizes the importance of historical awareness in navigating contemporary science communication, highlighting the need to address long-standing misperceptions and ideological biases. It is, in essence, an appeal for thoughtful engagement with the past to inform present-day discussions about evolution and science literacy. Section 3. The nature of scientific proof and the hypothetico-deductive method. Gould dedicates considerable attention to elucidating the nature of scientific proof, correcting the common misconception that science deals in absolute certainties. He articulates the principles of the hypothetico-deductive method, the cornerstone of scientific inquiry. He illustrates how scientists formulate hypotheses, derive testable predictions, and then design experiments or make observations to assess the validity of those predictions. Gould stresses that scientific conclusions are always provisional, Subject to revision in light of new evidence and evolving theoretical frameworks, he underscores that the strength of a scientific theory lies not in its claim to absolute truth, but in its ability to provide coherent explanations, generate accurate predictions, and withstand rigorous testing. Moreover, he emphasizes the role of falsifiability, the inherent possibility that a scientific hypothesis or theory can be disproven through empirical evidence. Gould uses Karl Popper's philosophy of science to illustrate this point, arguing that a theory which can never be refuted is not a scientific theory at all, by clarifying the nature of scientific proof and emphasizing the role of falsifiability. Gould demystifies the scientific process, making it accessible to a broader audience and addressing a common misconception that science seeks to provide absolute Section 4. The imperfection of the fossil record as evidence for evolution. Gould directly addresses a frequent criticism of evolutionary theory, the perceived incompleteness of the fossil record. Rather than viewing gaps in the fossil record as evidence against evolution, he cleverly reframes them as inherent properties of the fossilization process itself. He explains that fossilization is a rare event, dependent on specific geological conditions and chance occurrences. He stresses that the fossil record is inherently biased, favoring organisms with hard body parts that lived in environments conducive to fossil preservation. Gould presents the fossil record not as a complete and continuous chronicle of life's history, but as a series of snapshots, providing valuable insights into the past, albeit with inherent limitations. He then pivots to argue that the fossil evidence we do possess overwhelmingly supports evolutionary theory. He calls attention to transitional fossils, like Archaeopteryx, which exhibit characteristics of both reptiles and birds, providing tangible evidence of evolutionary transitions. In Gould's analysis, the imperfection of the fossil record becomes a powerful illustration of the challenges and rewards of scientific interpretation. It demonstrates that scientists must grapple with incomplete data, develop sophisticated analytical techniques, and draw inferences based on the available evidence. Section 5. Common ancestry and the tree of life. Metaphor. Gould delves meticulously into the concept of common ancestry, a foundational principle within evolutionary theory. He provides a clear and accessible explanation of how common ancestry is inferred from comparative anatomy, embryology, and molecular biology. He underscores the striking similarities in the skeletal structures of diverse vertebrates, observing that the bones in a human arm, a bat wing, and a whale flipper are fundamentally homologous, derived from a shared evolutionary origin. He then extends this analysis to the field of embryology, noting the remarkable parallels in early developmental stages across different species, reflecting their shared evolutionary heritage. The metaphor of the tree of life is presented as a powerful visual representation of common descent, illustrating how all living organisms are interconnected through a branching network of ancestry. Gould emphasizes that this tree-like pattern is supported by a wealth of empirical evidence, rather than simply being a convenient analogy. He highlights the predictive power of common ancestry, explaining how evolutionary biologists can use it to make testable predictions about the characteristics of yet undiscovered species or the relationships between existing organisms. Through his analysis, Gould demonstrates that common ancestry is not merely a speculative idea, but a well-supported scientific inference, providing a unifying framework for understanding the diversity of life on Section 6. Punctuated equilibrium and the tempo of evolutionary change. Gould addresses his own contribution to evolutionary theory, punctuated equilibrium, co-developed with Niles Eldredge. He explains that punctuated equilibrium proposes that evolutionary change often occurs in relatively rapid bursts, followed by extended periods of stasis. He emphasizes that this model challenges the traditional view of gradual, continuous evolutionary change, though does not refute it entirely. Instead, it proposes a more nuanced picture in which evolution can proceed at different rates and patterns under varying selective pressures. Gould acknowledges that the concept of punctuated equilibrium sparked significant debate among evolutionary biologists, with some critics questioning the evidence supporting it. However, he defends the model, arguing it aligns well with the observed patterns in the fossil record and provides a more realistic representation of evolutionary dynamics. He makes the point that punctuated equilibrium is still consistent with Darwin's original theory of evolution by natural selection. It merely describes a different tempo for the process. He also addresses the misconception that punctuated equilibrium implies that evolution is unpredictable or non-adaptive. He makes it clear that punctuated equilibrium remains within the framework of natural selection and adaptation, emphasizing its role in generating biodiversity and shaping the course of evolution. Section 7, Natural Selection as Mechanism. Not a guiding hand, Gould clarifies the role of natural selection as a mechanism for evolutionary change, cautioning against anthropomorphic interpretations that portray it as a guiding hand or a conscious agent. He emphasizes that natural selection operates through a process of differential reproductive success, in which organisms with traits that enhance their survival and reproduction in a given environment are more likely to pass on their genes to the next generation. He stresses that this process is driven by chance and necessity, with variations arising randomly through mutation, and then being sorted out by the demands of the environment. Gould challenges the notion that natural selection is inherently progressive or directional, leading inevitably to greater complexity or perfection. He argues that natural selection simply favors traits that are advantageous in a specific context, which may or may not involve increased complexity. He also addresses the common misconception that natural selection represents a struggle for survival, in which organisms are constantly competing against each other. Gould explains that natural selection can also operate through cooperation and mutualism, in which organisms benefit from working together. He emphasizes that natural selection is a multifaceted process, operating at multiple levels of biological organization, shaping the evolution of individuals, populations, and even entire ecosystems. Section 8. The interplay of chance and necessity in evolution. Gould explores the interplay of chance and necessity in shaping the course of evolution. He emphasizes that evolution is not a deterministic process, rigidly predetermined by physical laws, but rather a contingent process influenced by historical accidents and random events. He clarifies that mutations, the source of all genetic variation, arise spontaneously and unpredictably. He details how environmental changes, such as asteroid impacts or volcanic eruptions, can have profound and unpredictable effects on the trajectory of evolution, leading to mass extinctions and the rise of new species. Gould underscores that the specific course of evolution is not inevitable, but rather a product of the unique combination of chance events and selective pressures that have shaped life over billions of years. He illustrates this point with thought experiments, imagining what the world might look like had certain key events unfolded differently. He also addresses the philosophical implications of contingency, suggesting that it challenges the notion of human exceptionalism and reinforces the interconnectedness of all living things. Through his discussion, Gould argues that embracing contingency is essential for a more nuanced and accurate understanding of evolution, recognizing the role of both predictability and unpredictability in the history of life. Section 9, Debunking creationist arguments and maintaining scientific integrity. Gould directly confronts creationist arguments against evolution, exposing their logical fallacies and scientific inaccuracies. He emphasizes that creationism is not a scientific theory, but rather a religious belief system that is incompatible with the scientific method. He rebuts common creationist claims, such as the argument from irreducible complexity, which asserts that certain biological systems are too complex to have evolved gradually through natural selection. Gould explains that such systems can evolve through a process of co-option in which existing components are repurposed for new functions. Gould reinforces the importance of maintaining scientific integrity, emphasizing that scientists have a responsibility to communicate their findings accurately, honestly, and accessibly to the public. He also underscores the need to resist political and ideological interference in scientific research and education through his forceful and articulate defense of science. Gould champions the principles of rational inquiry, evidence-based reasoning, intellectual free. Section 10. The enduring significance of evolutionary theory. Gould concludes his essay by reflecting on the enduring significance of evolutionary theory. He emphasizes that evolution is not just a scientific theory, but a powerful framework for understanding the history of life, the diversity of the natural world, and the place of humans within the cosmos. Evolution allows us to understand the interconnectedness of all living things, to appreciate nature's beauty and complexity, and to grapple with fundamental questions about our origins and our future. He also acknowledges that evolutionary theory has implications for other fields, such as medicine, agriculture, and conservation, providing insights into the development of new drugs, the improvement of crop yields, and the protection of endangered species. Gould underscores the importance of science literacy, arguing that a robust understanding of science is essential for informed decision-making in a complex world. He calls upon scientists, educators, and citizens to work together to promote science education, foster critical thinking, and defend the integrity of scientific inquiry. Through his eloquent and persuasive argument, Gould inspires readers to embrace science as a tool for understanding the world, for solving problems, for creating a better future. For, in summation, evolution as fact and theory is not merely a defense of evolutionary science, it is a masterclass in critical thinking, science communication, and intellectual honesty. Gould's meticulous dissection of the fact-theory distinction is insightful analysis of historical and contemporary challenges to evolution, and his eloquent articulation of the scientific worldview have earned him a place as one of the most influential science communicators of our time. The essay's enduring relevance lies in its ability to equip readers with the tools to navigate complex scientific debates, to distinguish between evidence-based reasoning and ideological agendas, and to appreciate the profound implications of evolutionary theory for our understanding of the world and our place within it. He provides not solely a compilation of data, but a framework for engaging with science, promoting a scientifically literate citizenry equipped to address the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.